Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 163rd episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. Today, I hope it'll be a short episode for once. I just read this article and this whole internet upheaval around 124 or so scholars that wrote an open letter and that are saying that a leading theory on consciousness, which is called integrated information theory, is pseudoscience. And I had to laugh at that because obviously the people that are working on integrated information theory are offended, oh my God, they've just taken away my livelihood and my legitimacy and whatever. But let's run a thought experiment, because obviously since science is the leading paradigm and the empirical method is the leading paradigm today and the dominant paradigm, then being quote unquote excommunicated from that paradigm leaves you kind of hanging as to your worth and what you're supposed to do. But roll back to the times of let's say Descartes or Isaac Newton or Galileo even, and imagine if the people at the time which held power and the paradigm that was the most powerful at that time, which was monotheism and religion, Catholic religion especially, and there are a bunch of priests that got together and wrote an open letter saying, Isaac Newton, your theory of gravity is pseudo-religious and you are now excommunicated from the church, and you are and obviously today we'd be like, well, yeah, obviously he should be excommunicated, and there's nothing wrong with that because he's doing science, he's doing real important stuff, not this wishy-washy ideological, religious fake whatever belief systems and all that stuff. But back in the days, religion was all there was. It was the most important thing. It was the leading paradigm. It was everything was, they held the power, they had everything. So when you were kind of against the church, you were a pariah. You were irrelevant. Your work was supposed to be completely null and ignored by everyone. Because what legitimacy did you have? I mean, you're doing work that's outside of what's written in the Bible. And the Bible is all that is true. And so whatever you're doing is irrelevant, right? And so people will be like, no, I'm a faithful Catholic. Please don't excommunicate me. Please don't say that, the theory of gravity is actually the theory of gravity. It's all right. It just proves how well God designed this whole universe because it works so well. And that's exactly, by the way, incidentally, how most of the first scientists were arguing the ideas they were defending. The first formulas, the first methods and whatnot. They weren't saying this is a way to prove that God doesn't exist. They were saying, look, we're going to unravel via this methodology the beautiful universe that the God created and all of his laws, and prove just how intelligent God was, because how well he designed everything and how well it all works. It's proof that there is a God. So. And we see the same thing repeat today with these people from the integrated information theory, now saying, no, this is real science and I can prove it. And they're trying. So they want to be part of the science church, if you will, just because it's the leading paradigm and it has all the power today. But again, like I'm saying in all of the videos before, the only constant is change. And we are in the midst of a paradigm shift where science is not going to be the leading paradigm going forward. It's going to be one of the paradigms that we have at our disposal. And again, there's this logic of integrated operating systems is what I call it, is that each paradigm of humanity is like an operating system. And then that operating system becomes an application within an operating system that sits above it and makes the other kind of previous belief systems compatible between each other. So typically, the easy example is, think of polytheist religions and all of these superstitions and tribal belief systems or whatever. There's a huge diversity, and there's also a huge competition and rivalry over which god has the true answer, whether it's Neptune or Zeus or, this or that, and don't agree with each other, and you have to serve one, but then he's fighting the other. And you have tribes that are at war because their respective shamans said that different spirits said different things. And then comes along monotheism and, just completely washes over all of that. And now polytheists' beliefs become traditions. And you have this one true God that sort of harmonizes everything, and there's a written word, so you have no more or very little. The number of different interpretations are still relatively small compared to the divisions that you could have with polytheist religions and other kinds of belief systems. And those belief systems then become kind of applications that you can run within this one major operating system, which is monotheist religion. Then comes along science and empiricism. And science, even though a scientist would say, well, religions, that's not science, and we don't believe in God, and being atheist and whatever, the end effect of installing the operating system of science and empiricism in our reality is that you can run applications like Catholicism, Protestants, Muslims, Jews, and all kinds of other Buddhisms and all that stuff. All of these religions you can run inside of science, inside this kind of empirical science paradigm, without them going to war at each other all the time. And I mean, if you think back in the 15th, 16th centuries or even earlier, you had so many religious wars. I mean, countries went to war for religious reasons. You have like Protestants against Catholics. That's really violent in Europe. And most states that opted for a secular kind of regime, that kind of pacified these kind of clashes and made those different paradigms and belief systems compatible between each other. And we're going to start to see, as we're seeing, this is one of the signs of like empiricism, like trying to battle it out, and like a disagreement as with what is empiricism with, the Protestants, which are now the integrated information theory guys, and the Catholics, which are the ones that are hardcore materialists. And you have all these factions that are going to go. And then you have to install some kind of operating system that sits above all of that and that transforms all of these other paradigms, competing paradigms, into applications. Again, it's like a nested kind of logic. And in that sense, that is integrated, integrative, like the integral theory of Ken Wilber. But there's just so many signs of this happening, of always trying to create a kind of operating system that makes all the other belief systems compatible, and they can run within it. And so, today, many of these people in integrated information theory might be offended that they were excommunicated by the Church of Materialist Science, but it's not a problem in and of itself. I mean, today we'd find it ridiculous that Galileo or Newton would be like, please, I am a faithful Catholic, please let me join your church, I don't want to be excommunicated. We'd be like, hey, do your thing, man. Hey, you should stand strong, because empiricism and science is, all there is, and that's the only truth. You can only reach truth via that kind of belief system, or methodology, let's say, because, religion is all just hocus pocus superstition. But back in the days, man, if you were excommunicated from the church, like you were like a nobody. You were like, it's like being lynched on social media today and being completely like, people don't realize anymore. People forget, what it was like back in the days. To be deemed like an anti-Catholic or anti-religious or something like that. And so, it's just the signs of the times. Again, I just wanted to come in here and it just made me laugh, like this whole upheaval of and scandals and all that it stirred, and it's also something that I was thinking about my own channel, is that, am I doing science? Am I doing empiricism? And would I be offended if people saying, yeah, what you're doing is pseudoscience? It's not even pseudoscience. It's like completely, sure, whatever you like. I wouldn't want to be, my goal is definitely not to do science and empiricism, because I've said in many videos in this channel, the next step is exploring what cannot be empirically proven, but which still has some kind of bearing on our reality. It's something that goes beyond this kind of, and I invite you to look at a few episodes back, I did one on fishy science, a very short episode, 4 minutes, which is a really, really interesting thought experiment for just the different ways that you interact with reality and what place science has in that, and what other things have in that. Like, for instance, in terms of relationships and love, we all know that we're not gonna, choose partners based on the empirical method. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And try to measure your feelings for someone, with the empirical method. I mean, there's just it doesn't work like that. Like, and that kind of logic is going to be extended to more and more things, and that's where spirituality comes in, and this kind of unique experience that each human has of reality, and we call them, synchronicities in the jargon. But it's just the thing where you can start seeing the consequences or the uniqueness of you being you and how the universe responds to that, and the kind of events and reality you experience, which cannot be objectified. Like, you cannot replicate that for everyone. And it's this uniqueness of the human experience. So I hope you like this episode. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and talk to you in the next one.